Yahuwah. For Yahuwah is great, greatly to be praised. He is to be feared above all mighty ones. Hallelujah. Some trust in chariots and some in horses. But we will remember the name of Yahuwah, our mighty one. Hallelujah. 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 Praise Yahuwah. I'd like to welcome everyone to qodeshnation and to our Nebi'Im study, prophet study. Brothers and sisters, we're going to deviate a little. This week we're going to do something different than what we normally do. Normally I have a 6-chapter study. I break it up into 2 videos of 3 chapters apiece. This week we're just going to be doing the next 3 chapters. It's going to be chapters 37, 38, and 39 of Yehezqel. These are very rich chapters when speaking of futuristic prophecy and speaking of things that we as a nation have to look forward to in our redemption. Praise Yahuwah. So I don't want to breeze through these things. I want to make sure that I hit everything that I want to hit within these 3 chapters. So we're just going to be going through 3 this week. Praise Yahuwah. So chapters 37 through 39 in Yehezqel, which is Ezekiel. Hallelujah. So, without any further delay, we'll get started in chapter 37. Yehezqel, Ezekiel, chapter 37. The hand of Yahuwah was upon me, and took me out by the Ruach of Yahuwah, and put me down in the midst of the valley, and it was filled with bones. And he made me pass among them all around, and see, there were very many on the surface of the valley, and see, they were very dry. And he said to me, Son of man, would these bones live? And I said, O Adonai Yahuwah, you know. Again he said to me, Nabah to these bones, and you shall say to them, O dry bones, hear the word of Yahuwah. Thus said the Adon Yahuwah to these bones, See, I am bringing into you a spirit, and you shall live. And I shall put sinews on you, and bring flesh upon you, and cover you with skin, and put a spirit in you, and you shall live, and you shall know that I am Yahuwah. And I Nabu as I was commanded, and as I Nabu, there was a noise, and there was a rattling, and the bones came together, bone to bone. And I looked and saw sinews, and flesh came upon them, and skin covered them, but there was no spirit in them. Then he said to me, Nabah to the spirit, Nabah, son of man, and you shall say to the spirit, Thus said the Adon Yahuwah, Come from the 4 winds, O spirit, and breathe on these slain, so that they live. And I Nabu as he commanded me, and the spirit came into them, and they lived, and stood upon their feet a very great army. And he said to me, Son of man, these bones are all the house of Yashraal. See, they say our bones are dry, our expectancy has perished, and we ourselves have been cut off. Therefore, Nabah, and you shall say to them, Thus said the Adon Yahuwah, See, O my people, I am opening your graves, and shall bring you up from your graves, and shall bring you into the land of Yashraal. And you shall know that I am Yahuwah, when I open your graves, O my people, and bring you up from your graves. And I shall put my Ruach in you, and you shall live, and I shall settle you in your own land. And you shall know that I, Yahuwah, have spoken, and I have done it, declares Yahuwah. And the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, And you, son of man, take a stick for yourself, and write on it for Yehudah, and for the children of Yashraal, his companions. Then take another stick, and write on it for Yosef, the stick of Ephraim, and for all the house of Yashraal, his companions. Then bring them together for yourself into one stick, and they shall become one in your hand. And when the children of your people speak to you, saying, Won't you show us what you mean by these? Say to them, Thus said the Adon Yahuwah, See, I am taking the stick of Yosef, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribes of Yashraal, his companions, and I shall give them unto him with the stick of Yehudah, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in my hand. And the sticks on which you write shall be in your hand before their eyes. And speak to them, Thus said the Adon Yahuwah, See, I am taking the children of Yashraal from among the Gentiles wherever they have gone, and shall gather them from all around, and I shall bring them into their land. And I shall make them one nation in the land on the mountains of Yashraal, and one sovereign shall be sovereign over them all, and let them no longer be two nations, and let them no longer be divided into two reigns, and they shall no longer defile themselves with their idols, nor with their filthiness, nor with any of their transgressions. And I shall save them from all their dwelling places in which they have sinned, and I shall cleanse them, and they shall be my people, and I be their Elohim. While Daud my servant is sovereign over them, and they shall have one shepherd, and walk in my right rulings, and guard my laws, and shall do them. And they shall dwell in the land that I have given to Jacob my servant, where your fathers dwelt, and they shall dwell in it, they and their children, and their children's children forever, and my servant Daud be their prince forever. And I shall make a covenant of peace with them, an everlasting covenant it is, with them, and I shall place them and increase them, and shall place my Mikdash in their midst forever. And my dwelling place shall be over them, and I shall be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. And the Gentiles shall know that I, Yahuwah, am making Yashraal Kadosh, when my Mikdash is in their midst forever. Praise Yahuwah. Very rich chapter, brothers and sisters. Chapter 37 here. And the first thing we read about is this valley of dry bones. Now, the valley of dry bones, that's a lesson in and of itself. Praise Yahuwah. And so what I'm going to say about it today, brothers and sisters, is by no means going to be comprehensive, but at the same time, I want to hit a couple important points of this before we move on. Now, the main thing I want to deal with here is the idea of there being dry bones in the first place. What are the dry bones? What do dry bones represent? Praise Yahuwah. And if you do a study on this, see, we're not gonna go through all of that right now because I have other things that I want to deal with. But if you do a study on this in your own personal time, what you will find is, and it says it even within this passage here, but having healthy bones represents having hope, having an expectation. And whereas having dry bones represents your expectation, your hope just being lost, just being hopeless. You have no hope. You're in a hopeless situation. And see, that's what you'll find. That's what you'll find if you just do a word study about bones, and when the scriptures speak about bones in a symbolic manner like this, that's what it's talking about. And I believe that that's very significant, brothers and sisters, because, and I'm making reference to verse 11, when it says, and he said to me, Son of man, these bones are all the house of Yashraal. See, they say, our bones are dry, our expectancy has perished, and we ourselves have been cut off. So our expectancy, our hope has perished. And so this is very important to bring this out, because it helps us identify who the children of Yashraal are today. Mm-hmm. Praise Yahuwah. It is a people that, it's a hopeless people. It's a people that has no real hope for the future. Praise Yah. And let me tell you something. Nothing is without significance, brothers and sisters. This is why Yahushua commands us to take heed, watch, and pray. Be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of what's going on. That I do not believe it was just a random thing. That when Barack Hussein Obama, that when he ran his campaign to become the president of the United States, which he did twice, two-term president, that he ran his campaign on two major concepts: hope and change. Hope and change. Because just about anybody could look at the so-called black, so-called Negro, so-called colored, so-called African American. But in actuality, the children of Yashraal and the children of Yahudah, anybody in the world can look at us and see that collectively speaking, we are a hopeless people. Mm-hmm. And so that's why that was such an alluring message, the message of hope and change. Hope and change. And I say a hopeless people from this standpoint, that look at everything that was supposed to bring redemption to us. Black nationalism, the Marcus Garvey movement, Nation of Islam, with Farrakhan today and with Elijah Muhammad and just that whole movement. And so we have that. We have Egyptology, Pan-Africanism. You got people that are defeated in their lives, no power in this world, yet they're gods now. Yet they're gods. You see, Egyptology, Pan-Africanism. Then you have the civil rights movement. That was supposed to bring redemption. I'm talking about major movements now. I'm sure there's a lot of little things out there, but I'm talking major movements that were supposed to bring redemption to our people, and every single one of those movements have fallen flat. And I'm not saying that there's been no benefit whatsoever from them, because remember now that Yahuwah speaks of the false prophets. He said that they have slightly healed the wound of my people. So these movements, brothers and sisters, have brought slight healing to us. It's not that they haven't brought healing at all, and it's not that they haven't done any good whatsoever. It's just that they brought slight healing to our nation of people, but they have not brought redemption to us. They have not brought what was promised by them. And see, I believe, brothers and sisters, that this is exactly what it's talking about in Yehezqel 34, which we went through last week, when it talks about the lost sheep of the house of Yashraal. They're scattered on the mountains and the hills, and they're running from mountain to hill, and they have forgotten their resting place in those green pastures that Yah has for them, for us. But instead of settling in those green pastures, running from mountain to hill. Now, what are mountains? What are hills? Mountains and hills are nothing but earth that has been pushed together and lifted up. So earth that has been pushed together and lifted up, that when those plates in the ground, and how they talk about in geology, how they come together, they press up and they form mountains. They form hills. And so earth represents human flesh. And so when human flesh is exalted and lifted up, then it's symbolic of a mountain, or symbolic of a hill. And so here, the lost sheep of the house of Yashraal, running from mountain to hill. From this man to that man, this leader to that leader, this movement to that movement, looking for redemption, groping as a blind man at the noonday, groping as a blind man. Here the light is just right in front of you, shining bright. But you're groping as a blind man in the midst of this bright, shining light. Because you're looking for redemption somewhere else. Looking for answers somewhere else. You hear the truth, and no, it's got to be something other than that. Because I'll tell you something about these mountains and hills, brothers and sisters. I'll tell you something about these other movements that promise redemption to our people. Praise Yah. See, that I would venture to say that all of us, every single one of us, as so-called black folk here in America, want the results of redemption, the results of liberation. Would like to see the economic burden lifted off of our people collectively. Would like to see just freedom and freedom to govern our affairs how we want to govern them, and not be oppressed and not be exploited by others, but having real power in this world. I mean, the results of redemption, I would venture to say every single one of us want those results. But see, it's the path that Yah puts before us, that the path to get there, see, that's what's unattractive to people. That's why the Israelite truth is not as attractive as Pan-Africanism, Egyptology, as some of these other movements. Because, see, in these other movements, if you want to be a sodomite, you can be a sodomite. If you want to be a whoremonger, you can be a whoremonger. You want to be an adulterer, you can be an adulterer. And still, in their mind's eye, benefit from this redemption, from this liberation. In other words, you don't have to give up your sins. You don't have to repent. And that's what makes it so alluring. That's what makes it so attractive. But see, in this thing, in the truth, you got to repent. You got to return to the Torah. Praise Yahuwah. And then you get the barakah. And then you get the promise. Hallelujah. And so that's what causes all this, running from mountain to hill. And so because that all of these hopes that we've had over the years have been dashed against the wall. Even right after slavery, y'all have heard me talk about this before, about the Reconstruction. Same thing. It was the civil rights movement of the 1870s. Same deal. Offered all kind of hope to our people, and it fell flat. The very people that were helping us and protecting us down in the South, they sold out on us. And the result of it was Jim Crow, the black codes, hard segregation, Ku Klux Klan. That was a result of a hope that we had that was dashed against the wall. Praise Yahuwah. And so this is part of the reason that those bones are saying our expectation has perished. And this is why I talk about us being a hopeless people. Because there's been so many promises of hope, but then they've come to naught. And even Obama with his Hope and Change campaign. Here, so-called black folk get that man in office, and then he gets in there and does all these things for the LBGTP movement, P being pedophile. Does all these things for the LBGTP movement, is unapologetic about his support for LBGTP. But at the same time, and I'm not saying he didn't do anything for our people at all. There were some advances made, as far as some advances even in justice, as far as like lowering the discrepancy as far as people being caught with cocaine and people being caught with crack, because that was an obvious discrepancy even racially, where it tends to be so-called black folk that smoke the crack and so-called white folk that snort the cocaine. And so all of a sudden here you have crack that had these heavy penalties and cocaine, lighter. So he dealt with that. There are some reparations measures to Hebrew farmers that he dealt with that as well. There were some things, but see, Obama had to be very careful that his agenda was not too black. Because of his handlers. And that's the sad thing about 99.9% of the time. When you see a powerful so-called black man or so-called black movement in the United States of America, about 99.9% of the time, there's some heavy white money behind them. When you see someone of great power and influence now, I'm not talking about someone who just has influence over about 50, 100 people or something. I'm talking about somebody who's a real mover and a shaker, somebody who can just get up on TV and say some things and it would just influence just about all of us. Somebody who has that kind of power most of the time, there's some Gentile money driving them. So Obama had to be careful. You see, but when it came to the LBGTP, wide open, unapologetic. And so here they benefit from his presidency more so than supposedly his own people. We all know that's not the case, but I'm not here to get into that right now. Praise Yah. But they ended up being the primary benefactors of, what he was up there doing. And so, and the thing is, it's like, get on YouTube and just look at how people were acting when Obama got elected president. Look at how people were losing their minds when Obama got elected president. Finally, one of us, yes! And then, boop. So you see why those bones are saying, our expectation has perished. Man, we put our trust and our hope in this one and that one and this one and that one, and we're still no better off. See, that's what this dry bones thing is all about here. This is a hopeless people. And see, this is the way the so-called Jews get around this. Because we know the Israelis, so-called Jews, Ashkenazi Jews in this world, they are not a hopeless people. They got money, they got power, they got influence. You look at Israel today; they're one of the strongest militaries in the world. They're anything but hopeless. They're anything but powerless. So the way that they get around this is they say, well, that's only talking about the house of Israel, the 10 tribes. Now, because Judah has remained faithful. That's what they say. They say Judah has remained faithful. So Yah has always had a remnant in Judah in this world. And so that's what they call themselves. They say, well, we're just the remnant of Judah. So that's why we keep Torah and the traditions and all of that. Well, that's not all the way accurate, brothers and sisters. Praise Yahuwah. That now, has Yah preserved a remnant in the tribe of Yehudah? Praise Yahuwah. I'm not opposed to that idea, because you have all kind of Yahudim down in Africa, West Africa, in South Africa, different places, all kind of people that have held on to the Torah and to the traditions all these centuries. Has Yah preserved a remnant amongst these people? Yeah, maybe so. But the majority in Yehudah are going to be them dead, dry bones, just like the house of Yashrael. It's like you say that he's preserved a remnant in Yehudah. Okay, what about the rest of Yehudah then? Mm-hmm. They're in sin like everybody else. They're in idolatry like everybody else. They're no better off than even their brethren in the house of Yashrael, the northern tribes. So no, that's talking about all of us, brothers and sisters, this valley of dry bones. That's talking about house of Yashrael, house of Yehudah, praise Yahuwah, the 12 tribes right there. Even though he does have a remnant. Yeah, he does have a remnant, but that's talking about the 12 tribes right there. So there's no way around that. The children of Yashrael in this modern world are a hopeless people. And not just a hopeless people, but a people that have been given false hope after false hope after false hope. And their condition has not changed. Praise Yahuwah.
Praise Yahuwah.
Praise Yah. So that's why, brothers and sisters, we have the true message of hope. We have the true message of change because, see, if you do the things that we tell you, because we're just telling you what's in the scriptures, praise Yahuwah, then that hope will be realized. That change will take place. Hallelujah. It won't be just another thing that's here today and gone tomorrow. And see, this is why in a few places in prophecy, you will hear Yah say, then they will know that I am Yahuwah. Because think about it, that if you tell people who we are and what's going to take place in the future, that, we're going to be ruling and reigning, we're going to be back in our own land, and the nations are going to come and bow at our feet, people would laugh. Why? Because that if you look at the current world situation right now, it looks like a totally impossible task. I mean, how in the world is that going to happen? Look at the problems that our people have even going over and visiting in Israel and whatnot. I mean, here they are, a very powerful country, and guarded by, some of the most powerful countries in the world. Guarded by the United States, right there in the land, guarded by the United States and Britain. And here it's like you want to go over there and live in the land, they make you convert to Judaism and just all this type of stuff where it's like, man, you see the people who they're at odds with, people who they're always at war with, they're mopping them up left and right. Just mopping them up. And so it's like, how in the world is that ever going to happen? But see, we know through the scriptures, some way, somehow, they're going to be purged out of that land. And the true children of Yashral are going to be brought back and given that land. Some way, somehow. In fact, Yah's setting it up even right now. Mm-hmm. Praise Yahuwah. And see, that's why I believe that we're really seeing some stuff take place with Russia and with China. I mean, we already know, and we'll get into this in 38, but see, we already know that, Russia's going to be an enemy of, an enemy of Israel, and then ultimately an enemy of the true Israel. Because, see, Russia wants that land, Russia wants the resources and whatnot. And so it's not just a matter of Russia, being their enemy and pushing them out. They'll try to push us out too. Praise Yah. But see, Yah's going to deal with them. And so it's like, how in the world is that going to happen? Number one, you have one of the most powerful peoples in the world living there right now. And they're guarded by some of the most powerful countries in the world. And then number two, it's like, look at our situation. Look at us. Look at the condition of our people. And you mean to tell me that you people are going to rise up and rule the world? Ha, ha, ha. You see? But see, that's where, brothers and sisters, that's why Yah said that I will do this and people will know that I am Yahuwah, because only Yahuwah can do something like this. Right. This is not something that man can bring about. You see, that some of these solutions for redemption, liberation for our people, these are man-made solutions. Mm-hmm. These are people with money that come along our side and say, hey, we want to help. We want to help. But see, they have an agenda. They really want to use us. They really want to exploit us for their own political and personal gain. But they'll give all kind of money, and there'll be some black movement that seems to be doing something for a while, mm-hmm. but ultimately falls flat. Mm-hmm. Praise Yahuwah. Because if you have a lot of Gentile money behind you, you will not be able to have an agenda that's ultimately going to benefit our people. Praise Yah. Look at the NAACP, for example. Now, one of the most pressing issues for our people today, and you don't hear about this much, praise Yah, because this is something that has taken more lives, more Hebrew lives, more so-called black lives than gang warfare, homicides, drugs, all these things combined, and I'm talking about abortion. See, these abortion clinics are strategically placed in so-called black neighborhoods, Hebrew neighborhoods, for population control. The originator of Planned Parenthood, that she was very open about how she wanted to exterminate our people. Mm-hmm. And so we see these abortion clinics being put in our neighborhoods like this, and just taking these babies left and right. Now, I know they have the cooperation of women who go in there and voluntarily get abortions, because they go out there and fornicate. Praise Yahuwah. I'm saying most of them anyway. But, brothers and sisters, praise Yahuwah, that here you have the NAACP that they cannot do a thing about that. And they don't speak against that, from what I understand, unless they've changed in the last few years. They don't deal with that. And the reason why? Because that white liberal money that's behind them, they actually support abortion. Mm-hmm. And so them Negroes, because they call themselves Negroes now, so that's why I call them Negroes, because no, not Negroes, colored peoples. I'll say those colored peoples, because it's a National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. So they call themselves colored people, even though they're Hebrews, praise Yahuwah, but they can't do a thing about it because they're handlers because they're financiers. Praise Yahuwah. They support abortion, so they got to keep their mouth shut. And that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Praise Yah. That's why that our hopes have not been realized, because we've gotten all these promises from people with all this money, praise Yah, but never anything that truly benefits us as a people. And that's why, see, the only thing that's going to truly benefit us as a people is Yah's plan. Is us turning back to the Torah, praise Yahuwah, is us repenting as a nation of people, and Yah already has the plan laid out. There's no false hope, no false promise. He already has the plan laid out. He already has the roadmap. He already shows us what's going to happen when we do that. And the world, the nations of the world will know that He is Yahuwah. Praise Yah. Now let's go on. Next, we see the two sticks being joined. We see the house of Yashraal and those that are, Ephraim and those that are with him, talking about the northern tribes, and then Yahudah and those that are with him, talking about the southern tribes. We see the sticks being joined, and we see an interesting statement in verse 24 that I want to deal with. It said, "While Daud my servant is sovereign over them, and they shall all have one shepherd, and walk in my right rulings, and guard my laws, and shall do them." Now, verse 25 said that they will dwell in the land, said they and their children's children forever, and my servant Daud be their prince forever. So, what we need to do is that we need to harmonize the scriptures when it comes to this Daud thing, lest we find ourselves in false doctrine. Because you have people out there teaching that Daud himself is going to be ruling over Yashraal, praise Yahuwah, and that, it just has nothing to do with Yahusha at all. And if this is all the scripture that we had to go off of, then, I could see how that would be a convincing argument. But one thing we need to point out about Daud, it said Daud is sovereign over them, king. Now, for some reason in verse 25 it said, "And my servant Daud be their prince forever." So he talks about him being prince forever as well as sovereign, but it talks about this being an everlasting office. I believe that's the most significant thing about this passage, is that Daud being sovereign, it talks about this being an everlasting office. Now, I'm going to take you to 2 Shemuel chapter 7, because we're going to look at the original promise made to Daud about him having this everlasting reign. We're going to see how Yah broke it down to him. In 2 Shemuel chapter 7, and verse 12 is where we're going to pick up. It says, "When your days are filled and you rest with your fathers, I shall raise up your seed after you, who comes from your inward parts, and shall establish his reign. He builds a house for my name, and I shall establish the throne of his reign forever. I am to be his father, and he is my son. If he does perversely, I shall reprove him with the rod of men and with the blows of the sons of men. But my kindness does not turn aside from him, as I turned it aside from Shaul, whom I removed from before you. In your house, in your reign, are to be steadfast forever before you. Your throne is established forever." Now, Yah promises him his throne is established forever, but what's the first thing he says to him? Praise Yah. Concerning this everlasting throne in the very beginning. He says, "Your seed after you, who comes from your inward parts, and shall establish his reign." He said, "He builds a house for my name, and I shall establish the throne of his reign forever." So he talks about establishing the throne of his reign, the seed of Daud. And so when you read this, brothers and sisters, that yes, this applies to the successive kingly lineage of Daud, but ultimately applies to Yahushua Mashiach himself. Praise Yahuwah, in his everlasting reign. Now, keep this in mind, everlasting reign. Because we have to ask ourselves, who is going to be reigning forever in Yashraal? Because it said it's only going to be one sovereign. Who is going to be reigning forever in Yasha'al? Turn to Daniel 7. Turn to Daniel 7 with me. Who is going to be reigning forever? Who is going to be the one sovereign that's going to reign forever? So it's not going to be a matter of Daud being raised up, and he himself, and then he's going to be sovereign for a little while and then pass it on to someone else. No. Somebody, one individual is going to be sovereign forever over Yasha'al when we're redeemed as a nation. So who is that one somebody? Now, Daniel chapter 7. I'm not going to go through the whole vision he had, but I just want to hit what's relevant to the topic we're talking about today. And verse 13 of Daniel 7, it says, I was looking in the night visions, and I saw one like the Ben of Enosh. Other translations say the Son of Man, coming with the clouds of the Shamayim, and he came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him, and to him was given rulership and esteem and a reign, that all peoples and nations and languages should serve him. His rule is an everlasting rule which shall not pass away, and his reign that which shall not be destroyed. So somebody is going to be the everlasting king. It's either Daud or it's somebody else. So who is this everlasting king? It's only one now. It's not going to be two kings. It's only one. Who is this everlasting king? Turn to Yeshayahu, Isaiah. Isaiah 9. Isaiah 9. Now keep in mind, in Isaiah 9, this is well after Daud's death. Because this is during the time of Hizkiyahu. I mean, Hizkiyahu was pretty far down the line after Daud. Hizkiyahu was part of this Davidic son of Elohim lineage. He was one of the sons of Elohim according to the promise. Praise Yahuwah, by being a king in that lineage. So this is well past Daud's time. And listen to what's being said here. In Yeshayahu, Isaiah chapter 9. Verse 6. For a child shall be born unto us. Okay, a child shall be born, not a child was born unto us. A child shall be born unto us. A ben shall be given unto us. And his rule is on his shoulder, and his name is called Wonder, Counselor, Strong El, Father of Continuity, Prince of Peace. In the increase of his rule and peace, there is no end upon the throne of Daud and over his reign to establish it and sustain it with right ruling and with righteousness from now on, even forever. The Ardur of Yahuwah of hosts does this. Praise Yahuwah. So this is somebody sitting on the throne of Daud, somebody who obviously came long after Daud, and this is going to be the everlasting king. This is going to be the everlasting king. This is going to be the one, because there's not going to be two that's reigning. It's going to be the one who is going to reign forever. Psalm 110. Psalm 110. Let's go there. Psalm 110. So this everlasting king is going to sit upon the throne of Daud, but it's not going to be Daud himself. It's going to be someone coming after Daud and coming out of his inward parts, out of his loins. And I'm going to say something here that may upset some of y'all. Praise Yahuwah. But Yah clearly said that it would come out of Daud's inward parts, out of his loins. The only way possible for that to happen, brothers and sisters, is if this everlasting king was brought forth from the successive male lineage of Daud. Seed after seed after seed after seed. That's how it works. See, you can't say, oh well, if it's a woman that is descended from Daud, then we'll let that count. Praise Yahuwah. Because once you get a woman in the picture, then here you have another seed in the picture. You see, that seed has to come ultimately from Daud himself. Mm-hmm. So you can't say, oh, male or female. Nope, it's got to be the male lineage. It's got to come from Daud's inward parts. That's exactly what Yah said. Praise Yahuwah. So I'll leave that alone for now. But Psalm 110. Now, this everlasting king, he's going to sit on the throne of Daud. Praise Yahuwah. He's coming well after Daud. And this is another thing, too. This is another thing. Now, this is a psalm of Daud. This is a psalm of Daud. It says, Yahuwah said to Adonai. In other words, Yahuwah said to my master. That's what Adonai means. Yahuwah said to my master. Who's speaking here? This is Daud speaking. Who's Daud's master? Sit at my right hand until I make your enemies a footstool for your feet. Sit at my right hand. Where did we see that before? Daniel 7. The Ben of Anos, the Son of Man, was brought to Yahuwah. Praise Yahuwah. Brought in his very presence. Here, he says, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies a footstool for your feet. Yahuwah sends your mighty scepter out of Zion. Rule in the midst of your enemies. Your people volunteer in the day of your might, in the splendors of qodeshnation. From the womb, from the morning, you have the dew of your youth. Yahuwah has sworn and does not relent. You are a Kohen forever according to the order of Melchizedek. Yahuwah at your right hand smites through sovereigns in the day of his wrath. He judges among the nations. He shall fill with dead bodies. He shall crush the head over the mighty earth. He drinks of the stream by the wayside, therefore he lifts up the head. Now, this is not meant to be a total and comprehensive lesson concerning Psalm 110, because I'm sure there's a lot of things out of this that people would like to see brought out of it. I don't have the time to do that because of the scope of this lesson. I just want to point out a couple things, though. And the first thing I want to point out is whoever this individual is talking about, this is Daud's master. Daud calls this person his master. So this is not Daud, for one. Because Daud calls this individual his master. Number two, now, in verse 4 where it says that you are a Kohen forever according to the order of Melchizedek, that verse 5 through 7 goes right back into the flow of verses 1 through 3. It just goes right back into the flow. In other words, that it's not talking about this one who Daud calls his master, who is a sovereign now, a king, and then goes off talking about someone who's Kohen, or priest, forever. Praise Yahuwah. This is talking about the same individual. Same person. Whoever this king is, praise Yahuwah, who is to sit at the very right hand of Yahuwah, can be none other than the Ben of Anos, the Son of Man, that was brought into his presence in Daniel chapter 7. Praise Yahuwah, and anointed to rule forever and ever. See, he's going to rule forever, and he's going to be Kohen forever. How in the world is that possible? Could it be that we've misread this? Could it be that we've misinterpreted this? Could it be that he's just talking about somebody else altogether when he talks about this person being a Kohen forever? I mean, come on. The kings come from Yehuda. The Kohanim come from Levi. Certainly it couldn't be talking about the same person. Praise Yahuwah. But see, this is why he says you are Kohen forever after the order of Melchizedek. Praise Yahuwah. Well, Brother Hiram, do you have a second witness to that? Because that's such a far out concept. It's not far out to a lot of us now. Y'all know what I'm doing. That is such a far out concept that somebody is going to be king forever and somebody's going to be Kohen forever. So do you have a second witness to that? Yes, I do. Zechariah. Praise Yahuwah. Zechariah, and I believe it's chapter 6 where we want to go. Zechariah chapter 6. This is where we really need to pray for understanding when it comes to prophecy. Praise Yah. Because Yah has a lot to say to us through prophecy. And if we're not discerning, praise Yah, if we're not in tune with the Ruach, we'll miss it. Now, Zechariah chapter 6. Zechariah chapter 6. Praise Yahuwah. We're going to start in verse 8. It says, "And he called to me and spoke to me, saying, See, those who go toward the land of the north have given rest." Okay, I'm sorry. Verse 9 is where it starts. That's where I want to start. Verse 9. 6 verse 9. "And the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Receive the gift from the exiles, from Heldai, Tobiah, and Yediah, who have come from Babel. Then you shall go the same day and enter the house of Yoshiah, the son of Zephaniah, and you shall take the silver and gold and make a crown and place it on the head of Yahushua, the son of Yehozadak, the Kohen Haggadah, and speak to him, saying, Thus said Yahuwah of hosts, saying, See, the man whose name is the branch, and from his place he shall branch out, and he shall build the Yehezqel of Yahuwah. It is he who is going to build the Yehezqel of Yahuwah. It is he who is going to bear the splendor, and he shall sit and rule on his throne, and shall be a Kohen on his throne, and the counsel of peace shall be between them both." Praise Yahuwah. Hallelujah. So there it is again. Kohen and sovereign. One individual. Praise Yahuwah. This one individual who is going to build the Yehezqel. Now, everybody who has built the Yehezqel, Shalomo built the first Yehezqel, Zerubbabel built the second Yehezqel. This is not talking about either of them. Neither one of them reigned as king and priest. This individual that's ultimately going to build the Yehezqel, the temple of Yahuwah, is going to reign, is going to sit and rule on his throne and be a Kohen on his throne, and the counsel of peace shall be between them both. And see, this is even more revelation too. You back up in verse 12, and now Yah says this, "See the man whose name is the branch." See, all you got to do is go back to Yirmiyahu and study that word branch. And you'll see that the branch is referring to the king that's going to be seated. He's going to be seated on the throne during the kingdom age. So it's the everlasting king, because there's only going to be one king now. We already determined that in this study. So the branch is making reference to the eternal king, the everlasting king. And Yah says, "See the man whose name is the branch." Praise Yahuwah. Well, the one who symbolized this man, the one who they put the crown upon, what was his first name? Yahusha. There it is. I hear these people say, "Oh, we never see his name. We never see his name anywhere in the Tanakh." No, here it is. Here it is. They took a man now. They took a man whose name was actually Yahusha. This is Yahusha, son of Yehozadak. Praise Yahuwah. And they placed this crown of silver and gold on his head. Praise Yahuwah. The Kohen Haggadah. And they said, "Behold the man whose name is the branch." Hallelujah. So there's a lot rolled up into one right there, brothers and sisters. Praise Yahuwah. You know he's the everlasting king because he's the branch. And you know it's not anyone who had come before up to that point and built the temple, because the only ones who had built the temple up to that point were Shlomo and Zerubbabel. Praise Yahuwah. This is someone who's going to sit and reign as king and priest. Same individual as Psalm 110. And it's not Daud, because Daud calls the individual in Psalm 110, Daud calls him my master, Adonai. Praise Yahuwah. And so going back to where we were, going back to Yehezqel, where we started, because I know we took quite a journey. This is why you need to know what all the scriptures say concerning this sovereignship. Praise Yahuwah. Concerning this everlasting king in the kingdom age. You need to put it all together and not just isolate what we're reading here. Praise Yahuwah. And you will see the truth of the matter. Hallelujah. So we're back in Yehezqel 37. Back in Yehezqel 37. Praise Yahuwah. You'll see the truth of the matter. Praise Yah. So I'll read verses 27 and 28 once again. It said, my dwelling place shall be over them, and I shall be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. And the Gentiles shall know that I, Yahuwah, am making Yashra'al Kodesh, when my Mikdash is in their midst forever. Mikdash being sanctuary. Praise Yahuwah. So we're going to go into chapter 38 now. In chapter 38, this is where it's dealing with Gog and Magog. Praise Yah. And the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Son of man, turn your face against Gog of the land of Magog, the prince of Rosh, Meshech and Tubal and Nabah against him. And you shall say, Thus says the Adon Yahuwah, See, I am against you, O Gog, the chief prince of Rosh, Meshech and Tubal, and I shall turn you around, and I shall put hooks into your jaws, and shall lead you out with all your army, horses and horsemen, clad perfectly, a great assembly with armor and shields, all of them handling swords. Paris, Cush, and Put are with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Gomer and all its bands, the house of Togarmah, from the far north, and all its bands, many peoples with you. Be ready, prepare yourself, you and all your assemblies that are assembled unto you, and you shall be a guard for them. After many days you shall be called up. In the latter years you shall come into the land of those brought back from the sword, and gathered from many people on the mountains of Yashra'al, which had been a continual waste, but they were brought out of the Gentiles, and all of them shall dwell safely. And you shall go up, coming like a storm, covering the land like a cloud, you and all your bands, for many peoples with you. Thus said the Adon Yahuwah, and it shall be in that day that words arise in your heart, and you shall devise an evil plan. And you shall say, Let me go up against a land of unwalled villages, and let me go to those at rest who dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates. To take plunder and to take booty, to stretch out your hand against the waste places that are again inhabited, and against the people gathered from the Gentiles, acquiring livestock and goods, who dwell in the middle of the land. Sheba and Dedan and the merchants of Tarshish and all their young lions shall say to you, Have you come to take plunder? Have you gathered your army to take booty, to bear away silver and gold, and to take away livestock and goods, to take great plunder? Therefore, son of man, Nabah, and you shall say to God, Thus said the Adon Yahuwah, In that day when my people Yashra'al dwell safely, would you not know? And you shall come from your place out of the far north, you and many peoples with you, all of them riding on horses, a great assembly and a mighty army. And you shall come up against my people Yashra'al like a cloud to cover the land. In the latter days it shall be. And I shall bring you against my land, in order that the Gentiles know me when I am Kadosh in you, O God, before their eyes. Thus said the Adon Yahuwah, Are you the one I spoke of in former days by my servants, the Nebi'Im of Yashra'al, who nabu for years in those days, to bring you against them? And it shall be on that day, on the day when God comes against the land of Yashraal, declares the Adon Yahuwah, that my wrath shall come up in my face. For in my jealousy and in the fire of my wrath I have spoken. On that day there shall be a great shaking in the land of Yashraal, so that the fish of the sea and the birds of the Shamayim and the beasts of the field and all creeping creatures that creep on the earth and all men who are on the face of the earth shall shake at my presence, and the mountains shall be thrown down, and the steep places shall fall, and every wall fall to the ground, and I shall call for a sword against Gog on all my mountains, declares the Adon Yahuwah, the sword of each one being against his brother, and I shall judge him with pestilence and blood, and rain down flooding rain and hailstones and fire and sulfur on him and on his bands and on the many peoples who are with him. And I shall exalt myself and kadosh myself, and I shall be known in the eyes of many nations, and they shall know that I am Yahuwah. Praise Yahuwah. So in chapter 38, brothers and sisters, that there are some things mentioned here that are somewhat mysterious. And I don't know if you caught it while I was reading. And so I want to point these things out, and I want to point out to you what I believe is the answer to this mystery. Now, we know we're going to be brought back to the land, and once we're brought back to the land, you know, it's going to be peace, it's going to be shalom, praise Yahuwah. And here in chapter 38, and verse 8 is the first place that I want to bring out here. It says, after many days you shall be called up. Now keep that in mind. After many days you shall be called up. In the latter years you shall come into the land of those brought back from the sword and gathered from many people on the mountains of Yashraal, which had been a continual waste, but they were brought out of the Gentiles, and all of them shall dwell safely. Okay, so Gog and Magog, they're coming upon a people that is already dwelling safely now. Okay? People who had already been brought back from the Gentiles, children of Yashraal, you know, of course. But I wanted to put emphasis on after many days and in the latter years. Now, in verse 11 it says, and you shall say, let me go up against a land of unwalled villages. Currently, Israel's pretty much in a state of war continually. They are not a land of unwalled villages right now. They aren't. I mean, constantly just at war and fighting. But this is going to be a land of unwalled villages. This is going to be a place that has been at shalom for quite a stretch of time, if it's going to be a land of unwalled villages. Let me go to those at rest who dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls, having neither bars nor gates. This is a people already dwelling like this. This is when Gog and Magog are going to come against Yashraal, when they're already dwelling like this. Praise Yahuwah. To take plunder and to take booty, to stretch out your hand against the waste places that are again inhabited, and against a people gathered from the Gentiles, acquiring livestock and goods, who dwell in the middle of the land. What that sounds like to me, brothers and sisters, is that this attack is going to take place after we have been returned to the land and we're well established in the land. Especially talking about a land of unwalled villages. No walls, no bars, no gates. I mean, this is when we are established in the land and living in shalom. Praise Yahuwah. And so we see that it's Gog and Magog coming out of the far north. Now it's interesting that it says Gog out of the land of Magog, the prince of Rosh, Meshach, and Tubal. Now, Meshach, from what I understand, Meshach corresponds to Moscow, and Tubal corresponds to Turkey, but Rosh corresponding to Russia. And so this is confirmed by Yah saying that they're going to be coming from the far north. See, if you take a straight line, you run it from the North Pole through Yerushalayim, you're going to go right through Moscow, from what I understand, or close to it. And so from the far north, when we hear of directions in Scripture, it's always in relation to the land of Yasha'al. Praise Yahuwah. So this is talking about Russia and some confederation with them. They're going to be coming against us. It said Paris, Cush, and Put. See, these are, Cush, Put. These are African nations. Paris, it's talking about Persia. Iran, Gomer and all its bands. Talk about the Germanic people. But I believe I have the answer to this, praise Yahuwah, because how is it that this attack is going to take place once we're well established in the land? Turn to Revelation. Turn to Revelation. In Revelation, this is after the great white throne judgment. No, not after the great white throne judgment. Okay, this is when the qodeshnation are rewarded. Praise Yah. And this is when the Hashatan is bound for 1,000 years. Now, look at what takes place here in verse 7. This is before the great white throne judgment. Verse 7, and when the 1,000 years have ended, Satan shall be released from his prison, and he shall go out to lead the nations astray, which are in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together for battle, whose number is as the sand of the sea. And they came up over the breadth of the earth and surrounded the camp of the qodeshnation and the beloved city. And fire came down from Elohim out of the Shamayim and consumed them. And the devil who led them astray was thrown into the lake of fire and sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet are, and they shall be tortured day and night forever and ever. Praise Yahuwah. So, brothers and sisters, I believe the answer to this mystery in chapter 38 is that I believe chapter 38 is actually describing the events of Gog and Magog coming against our land and our people after the 1,000-year reign of Yahushua. Because that's exactly what it says is going to take place here in Revelation chapter 20. That they're going to come up against the land after the 1,000-year reign. Because by that time, it's a land of unwalled villages, no walls, no bars, no gates, people dwelling safely in the land at that time. Praise Yahuwah. People well established in the land, and then they're going to come. And I believe that this is the connection here, that when Hashatan is released from his prison, after that 1,000 years, he's going to go deceive the nations again, and Gog and Magog are going to lead the charge to come against the land. Praise Yahuwah. Now, the reason why I say mystery is because we're going to go into chapter 39. And in chapter 39, it talks about an invasion from Gog and Magog. And then it speaks of events in chapter 39 that could only pertain to our time and not a time in the far future. Praise Yahuwah. And so I believe the answer to this is that I believe that there is going to be an attack from Gog and Magog in this time, in the Battle of Armageddon. And this is while we're being brought back to the land. And then after the 1,000-year reign, when Hashatan is released from his prison and deceives the nations and uses Gog and Magog to attack the land, that I believe it's going to happen another time. Praise Yahuwah. So I believe that 38 and 39 are talking about two different time periods when Gog and Magog are going to attack our land. So keeping that in mind, I'm going to read chapter 39 now. Chapter 39. And you, son of man, Nabah against Gog, and you shall say, Thus said the Adon Yahuwah, See, I am against you, O Gog, the prince of Rosh, Meshach, and Tubal, and shall turn you around and lead you on and bring you up from the uttermost parts of the north and bring you against the mountains of Yashraal, and shall smite the bow out of your left hand and make the arrows fall from your right hand. On the mountains of Yashraal you shall fall, you and all your bands and the peoples who are with you, to the birds of prey of every sort and to the beasts of the field I shall give you for food. On the face of the field you shall fall, for I have spoken, declares the Adon Yahuwah. And I shall send fire upon Magog and on those who live undisturbed in the coastlands, and you shall know that I am Yahuwah. And I shall make my Kodesh name known in the midst of my people Yashraal, and not let my Kodesh name be profaned any more. And the Gentiles shall know that I am Yahuwah, the Kadosh one in Yashraal. See, it shall come, and it shall be done, declares the Adon Yahuwah. This is the day of which I have spoken, and those who inhabit the cities of Yashraal shall go out and light on fire and burn the weapons, both the shields and armor, and the bows and the arrows, the clubs and spears, and they shall make fires with them for 7 years, and take no wood from the field, nor cut down any from the forest. For with the weapons they make fire, and they shall plunder those who plundered them, and loot those who looted them, declares the Adon Yahuwah. And it shall be on that day that I give Gog a burial site there in Yashraal, the valley of those passing by the east of the sea, and passing by, because there they shall bury Gog and all his crowd, and shall call it the valley of Hamon Gog. And the house of Yashraal shall bury them for 7 months, in order to cleanse the land. And all the people of the land shall bury them, and it shall be for a name to them on the day that I am esteemed, declares the Adon Yahuwah. And they shall separate men who continually pass through the land, burying those who are passing through, those left on the surface of the ground, in order to cleanse it. At the end of 7 months they shall search, and those passing through shall pass through the land. And when anyone sees a man's bone, he shall put up a sign beside it, till the buriers have buried it in the valley of Hamon Gog. And also a city named Hamona shall be there, so they shall cleanse the land. And you, son of man, thus said the Adon Yahuwah, Speak to every sort of bird and to every beast of the field, assemble yourselves, and come, gather from all around to my offering, which I am slaughtering for you, a great offering on the mountains of Yashraal, and you shall eat flesh and drink blood. Eat the flesh of the mighty and drink the blood of the princes of the earth, of rams and lambs and goats and bulls, all of them fatlings of Bashan. And you shall eat fat till you are filled, and drink blood till you are drunk, at my offering which I am slaughtering for you. And you shall be satisfied at my table with horses and riders, with mighty men and with all the men of battle, declares the Adon Yahuwah. And I shall place my esteem among the Gentiles, and all the Gentiles shall see my judgment, which I have executed in my hand, which I have laid on them. And the house of Yashraal shall know that I am Yahuwah their Elohim from that day onward. And the Gentiles shall know that the house of Yashraal went into exile for their wickedness, because they have trespassed against me, so that I hid my face from them, and I gave them into the hand of their enemies, and they all fell by the sword. According to their uncleanness and according to their transgressions I have dealt with them, and hidden my face from them. Therefore, thus said the Adon Yahuwah, Now I am going to bring back the captives of Jacob, and I shall have compassion on all the house of Yashraal, and shall be jealous for my Kodesh name. And they shall have borne their shame, and all their trespass they committed against me, when they dwell safely in their own land, with none to make them afraid. When I have brought them back from the peoples, and gathered them out of the lands of their enemies, and I shall be Kodesh in them before the eyes of many Gentiles, and they shall know that I am Yahuwah their Elohim who sent them into exile among the Gentiles, and then gathered them back to their own land, and left none of them behind. And no longer do I hide my face from them, for I shall have poured out my Ruach on the house of Yashrael, declares the Adon Yahuwah. Praise Yahuwah. So, did you all notice the difference between chapter 38 and chapter 39? That the main difference between these two chapters is that in chapter 39, we see Yah dealing with Gog and Magog. We see Yah bringing destruction upon them, and then we see Yah bringing our people back from exile and bringing them back in shalom. Praise Yahuwah. Whereas in chapter 38, and this is why I believe that it makes special mention of in the latter days and after many days you'll be brought up. It talks about Gog and Magog coming against cities of unwalled villages, no walls, no bars, no gates, people dwelling safely, people prospering, our people now at this time, and then Gog and Magog comes. So we see two different situations in these two different chapters here. Praise Yahuwah. So this is why I believe there's going to be an attack in our time during the Battle of Armageddon, as we have learned to call it, and then even after the 1,000-year reign, when everything's at shalom and Hashatan is released from his prison. And so chapter 39, of course, there's some things that connect with some things that we already know. Because all the armies, how the beasts of the field and the birds are going to feed on them, we know that's going to happen around the time that Yahushua comes, according to Revelation chapter 19. When the Son of Man, the Ben of Enosh, is revealed on the clouds of the Shamayim, that we know that this great sacrifice is going to take place upon the hordes of Gog and Magog and everybody that's following them. Praise Yah. And so, but afterwards, brothers and sisters, after it mentions all of that, that it talks about, see, in verse 22 even, it says, in the house of Yashrael will know that I am Yahuwah their Elohim from that day onward. Whereas in 38, I mean, it's long after the house of Yashrael is known that he is Elohim. Praise Yahuwah, but they're dwelling safety at that time, dwelling in safety at that time. But here, it begins to talk about his dealings with us historically. And this is another way you can tell who the house of Yashrael and the house of Yehuda is today. Praise Yahuwah. Because 3 different times in chapter 39, Yah spoke of how he hid his face from Yashrael. Gave them into the hand of their adversaries. Praise Yahuwah. And so he makes 3 references to the hiding of his face. 2 references where he said that he hid his face. And then in the 3rd reference, it talks about, no longer do I hide my face from them, for I shall have poured out my Ruach on the house of Yashrael, declares the Adon Yahuwah. Now, the best way I can describe what happens to a people when Yahuwah hides his face from them. And I say this because I heard a lesson being given by a very popular Hebrew roots teacher. And of course, this Hebrew roots teacher believes that the Ashkenazis are the true Yahudim, praise Yahuwah, along with whoever else he may believe is, but he at least does believe that those who call themselves the Jews are the Jews. And so he was saying that he brought out a Pauline writing talking about how that we see the esteem of Yahuwah in the face of Yahusha. And so because we see the esteem of Yahuwah in the face of Yahusha, that when it talks about Yah's face being hidden from the Yahudim, that just means that they just don't have the revelation of who Yahusha is. Okay, so here they are prospering financially, some of the richest people in the world, but Yah has hidden his face from them because they just don't know who Yahusha is. Okay, they're wealthy, they're militarily powerful, won every war they've been in, but Yah's face is hidden from them. Well respected worldwide, well protected worldwide, but Yah has hidden his face from them simply because they just don't know who Yahushua is. I'm going to tell you what, I mean, when I heard him say that, it sounded good at the time, but when I really dug into the scriptures on this hiding of the face business, praise Yahuwah, and see, back when I was just giving audio lessons, that I gave an audio lesson, and I mean, the links for the audio lesson should be in the description box if you ever want to go back and check them out. But this is when we were on the TalkShoe platform. I actually gave an audio lesson about when Yahuwah hides his face. And when Yahuwah hides his face from a people, that I can guarantee you they're not wealthy, they're not militarily powerful, they're not feared and respected worldwide, they're the opposite. Praise Yahuwah. And the best example we can look to is our people in the book of Judges. Because before before Moses taught the song of Mashah, song of Moses to the people, Yah told him, Yah revealed him what was getting ready to happen with that generation of people he was dealing with. Praise Yahuwah. And when I say that generation, I mean, you know, the generation that was going to, the young people, the ones that were going to enter the land, because everybody 20 and down, they were the ones that were going to enter the land. The older generation was going to die off. But Mashah was even saying that you who go into the land, that, I mean, I know what's going to happen to you all. Y'all are going to turn from Yahuwah. Y'all are going to worship other mighty ones. And when you do, and I'm paraphrasing, and when you do, he's going to hide his face from you. So all you have to do is read the beginning part of Judges, about the first half of the book of Judges, and that's exactly what happens to a people when Yahuwah hides his face. That look at how they were impoverished. Look at how they were oppressed. Look at how just their enemies just rode over their heads. Their enemies just had their way with them. That's what happens when Yahuwah hides his face from a people. Praise Yahuwah. So this is why I was saying that chapter 39, it's an excellent chapter in identifying who the children of Yashar'al and the children of Yahudah are today. Who are the one people worldwide from whom Yahuwah has hidden his face? Because he obviously has not hidden his face from the Israelis. Praise Yahuwah. Because of their wealth, their power, the esteem and praise they have from men throughout this world. Praise Yahuwah. And that's not to say that Yah's face is shining on them. Praise Yahuwah. Because Yah uses the wicked now. Praise Yah. Yah raises up wicked nations. Makes them wealthy. Makes them powerful. Makes them feared and respected. But as far as Yah hiding his face, where a people has no favor at all, praise Yahuwah, that's what we have to ask ourselves. That what nation of people, here in the United States, what one nation of people has had a historical experience that more closely matches about the first half of the book of Judges? Praise Yah. What one people have experienced slavery, oppression, impoverished, have been impoverished, praise Yah, just no respect, no honor, no respect. What one nation in this country has experienced that? People can talk all they want about, what about the Native Americans and whatnot? Yeah, to a degree, but at the same time, what a lot of people don't realize about the so-called Native Americans, because see, we believe that the true Native Americans in this country were a black people. They're not the people who are called Native Americans today, that these people have been whited out. Because they didn't look like that hundreds of years ago. The older the pictures are that you look at in the United States of the so-called Indians, the darker they get. Praise Yah. But see, that's beside the point. We're not going to get too deep into that. It's just that what people don't realize about the so-called Native Americans is that the United States government actually made a treaty with them. The so-called 5 civilized tribes of the Native Americans. And the government made a treaty with them, and so they agreed to collude with the government in our enslavement. They held slaves, and they helped the government, praise Yahuwah, as far as keep us enslaved. And so, that's another side of the coin too. Yeah, they were oppressed, and yeah, they went through what they went through, but at the same time, I mean, look at the favor that they did get. The government here making treaties with them like that. And here they get all these reservations and all this land and all these concessions because of what was done to them. Praise Yah. I think they've gotten some favor. See, Yashar is going to get no favor. All these people that have received reparations for wrongdoings of the past, so-called Native Americans, Japanese, the Jews, so-called Jews, praise Yahuwah, just all these groups that have gotten reparations, and even money here from the United States. It's like here in the United States, I mean, we weren't the ones that, as far as the so-called Jews over in Germany, we're not the ones who did that to them, but for some reason we're paying out money. And so the Native Americans, they're right in there in the mix, having gotten all this favor, these land concessions, all this money, all this stuff. Praise Yahuwah. But what have we got? Nothing. No favor. No favor. That's what happens when Yahuwah hides his face from a people. Praise Yahuwah. And so our people, more than anybody else, fits the description of our forefathers in the book of Judges. And what they went through, praise Yahuwah, once they turned away from Yah, Yah hid his face and man had their way with them. And see, that's another thing. Man is just having their way with us, even here in the land of our captivity. Praise Yahuwah. That's another subject in and of itself, is just our exploitation and how we've been exploited. Just all of these centuries. See, people talk about, y'all complain, go back to Africa, go back to Africa. And yet you have ignorant people that say that. I'm going to tell you what, corporate America does not want us to, quote unquote, go back to Africa. No way. You get a bunch of white folk that want to rise up and try to make that happen. I believe corporate America would murder those people. Corporate America would destroy those people. Nuh-uh, don't you touch our slaves. These people bring in too much money. These people spend too much money. These people are too profitable to us. And don't you send them back to Africa. No. Praise Yahuwah. And so in that respect, America, for so long, has had this love-hate relationship with our people. They love what we can do for them. They just don't love us. They love how much we profited them and how much we're able to entertain them, how much we can run, jump, and play for them. They just don't love us. Praise Yahuwah. But see, I'm not here to bellyache and crybaby about that. Praise Yahuwah, because they don't need to love us. Praise Yah. We do ask for justice. We do ask that things be right, that we could coexist peacefully. But we need to love one another. We need to look for love from one another. We need to restore the love between one another amongst our own. Praise Yah. We get so mad. We get so mad and upset because we just get the revelation. Wow, Gentiles don't love me. Praise Yah. Well, I mean, the thing is, if you didn't have such a high expectation like that, then you wouldn't be disappointed. If you're not constantly going and looking for love in the wrong places, you won't be disappointed. We need to concentrate on loving one another. Praise Yah. You think that Korean man that walks around in America, you think he's sad because, white people don't love me? You think that Arab man walking around in the United States, you think he's all sad? White people don't love me. The Mexican man, Hispanic man, you think he walks around all sad? No, white people don't love me. They don't want to include me. Those people can care less. You know why? Because they love one another. You know why? Because they're unified as nations of people. They have one another. They have one another's back. They're strong. as nations. We're the only one out of all the nations that we're belly aching and crying. Oh, because the Gentiles don't love us. And we want to be treated better by the Gentiles. We don't even treat one another right. But we beg them to treat us right. Praise Yahuwah. That's part of the reason why they don't treat us right, because they see we don't treat one another right. Mm-hmm. We want all this respect, but we don't want to earn it. Praise Yahuwah. I'll tell you what, us coming together as a nation of people and truly loving one another, as Mashiach has loved us, praise Yahuwah, and being that people who Yah has called us to be, that'd be the best thing to happen to the United States of America. It really would be. Because currently we're a curse to this nation. We are. So-called blacks, so-called Negroes, so-called African Americans, so-called colors, but truly the children of Yasha'al and the children of Yahudah, we are a curse to the United States of America. Praise Yahuwah. See, I can say that. White man says that. I mean, they'll rake him over the coals. They'll tar and feather him. Mm-hmm. I'll say it, though. Praise Yahuwah. I say it because Zechariah says it. Praise Yah. Here, I'm going to read it. I've told you all before that the Scripture says this, but in case some of y'all don't believe me, I'm gonna read it. I'm going to give you a reference. I'm going to show you that we are a curse to the United States of America. We are at this time. While we're out of obedience to Yah, while we're out of Torah, out of righteousness, we are a curse. Not just to the United States, we're a curse to all the nations. Praise Yahuwah. Now, in Zechariah chapter 8. Zechariah chapter 8. Here we go. Hallelujah. In verse 11, we'll start here. It says, "But now I am not as in the former days to the remnant of this people, declares Yahuwah of hosts. Because of the sowing of peace, the vine gives its fruit, the ground gives her increase, and the Shamayim give their due. And I shall cause the remnant of this people to inherit all these, and it shall be as you were a curse among the Gentiles, O house of Yahudah and house of Yasha'al, so I shall save you, and you shall be a barakah. Do not fear, let your hands be strong." See that? As you were a curse among the Gentiles. Praise Yahuwah. We don't have to be a curse. We can be a barakah. We can fulfill the Abrahamic vision and be a barakah, a blessing to the nations. But it starts with repentance. It starts with us turning back to Torah. It starts with us being restored as a people and as a nation. Praise Yahuwah. Then Yah can be kadosh in us. Yah can set himself apart in us. Yah can raise us to honor and esteem amongst the nations, and we can take our rightful place in this world. Hallelujah. Praise Yahuwah. So that's all, brothers and sisters. Praise Yahuwah. Just 3 chapters, but 3 power-packed chapters. Praise Yahuwah. I encourage you even to go back over this. Go back over this lesson and go back over the scriptures, because there's a lot here that can really build our emunah, our belief, and our hope in Yah. There's a lot here to really encourage us, praise Yahuwah, to look for the redemption that Yah has for us as a nation of people. Hallelujah. So with that, I will say, Shalom.